Welcome to the Coping Podcast, where we share strategies for coping with the stressors of life, especially the difficulties of parenting. And here is your host, Dr. Lee Weisz.
Just a quick disclaimer, the information provided is for educational and informational purposes only. This is not intended to provide mental health treatment and does not constitute a client-therapist relationship. The information provided is not a replacement for being assessed and evaluated by a licensed professional and is not intended to replace mental health or medical advice.
This is a special episode. It is a presentation Dr. Lee Weisz gave about 6 steps to improving work-life balance for working moms. And it was so well received that we had to share it on the podcast. This episode is brought to you by Coping Partners. Coping Partners is a mental health practice dedicated to helping children, adolescents, and adults manage various challenges, including anxiety, divorce, behavioral issues, relationship problems, and much more in the Chicago suburbs. Our practitioners are devoted to building on our clients' strengths and bolstering weaknesses. To gain insight and tools for getting unstuck, check out our website at copingpartners.com or email us at support@copingpartners.com.
So I just am going to dive right in and ask, is there really such a thing as work-life balance? Does any of this sound familiar to you or vaguely familiar to you? Picture this. I wake up to my 3-year-old climbing into my bed at 5 a.m., wide awake, and she wakes up the baby who then needs to feed. I hurry to get both kids dressed amidst a mini tantrum because the older one wants to perfectly match her socks with her outfit, and we can't find the one pair that's a perfect match. I miraculously shower myself, put on real clothes as opposed to mommy gear, get both girls in their car seats, finally ready to drop them off before I go to work. Then I work a 10-hour busy day and am anxious to attend to my older daughter's bedtime routine and spend some time with her before she gets to sleep. Since I missed my infant's last nursing, I had to pump. Everyone following what kind of pump? Not gasoline. But I didn't want to deal with getting all the pumping equipment set up while closing down my computer at work. So instead, I decided to pump while driving. Do not do this at home. I did this one time only so I could multitask and so that when I pulled in the driveway, I could attend to my daughter and her bedtime routine. I felt there just wasn't enough time in the day, that I needed to attend to every moment. I needed to make use of every moment in order to say goodnight to my older daughter after working a long day before her bedtime and forget about having any time to sleep for myself. By then, it was 9 p.m., I was exhausted, and I still hadn't eaten dinner yet. So I am a clinical psychologist. My name is Lee, and I work with families, children, and couples. I am also a mom, as you've gathered, of a 3-year-old in the lovely 3-nager stage, in addition to my almost 9-month-old baby. So when Claire asked me to give this talk, I thought, who really has this work-life balance thing all figured out? We're all on this journey together to strike our own good enough, but certainly not perfect balance. So let me tell you a story about one of my clients. A client of mine who is highly successful in her job and career once told me how she goes to work and is filled with doubts about not being good enough, about not giving work her all, because she's trying to schedule doctor's appointments and her head is just never really 100% in her job. At the same time, she felt like she was never really a good enough mother to her children who missed her when she traveled and so forth. In other words, she felt she was never fully present in either realm of her life, at work or with her parenting. She wondered, how could she continue at the pace she was working? How could she keep up with her never-ending multitasking and impossible juggling act? She came to see me in therapy actually because of many physical symptoms of the stress of doing it all and then waking up the next morning only to repeat again. She had hives, she had headaches, muscle tension, and occasional palpitations, and nothing medically was found to be contributing to these physical symptoms, nothing that is besides stress. So there are a lot of women, it turns out, who actually fantasize about being home sick or even having to go to the hospital. They're called hospital fantasies due to a minor accident. Very brave of you. The accident would be just serious enough to be relieved for a few days from your daily task, but of course, nothing more than that. And if you've had these fleeting thoughts before, you are not alone. It is tough to do what we do. I want to share with you what you can do starting tomorrow to achieve a better work-life balance. The 6 simple steps that I'm going to teach you tonight are ways to achieve a better work-life balance and to cope with the stress of the balancing act. And here they are. Drum roll, please. Number 1, let go of the guilt. Number 2, connect while away. Number 3, unplug to allow quality time. Number 4, add self-care and get back to the basics. Number 5, remind yourself why you work in the first place and then surround yourself with supportive others. This group being a great example. And number 6, ask yourself, how can I make my work environment healthier for me? Before we dive into more detail for the 6 simple steps, I want to say that everyone, men and women alike, stay-at-home parents and working parents, all have this work-life balance dilemma that merits our attention. It's not just women. However, we are still absolutely stuck in traditional gender roles, which is why oftentimes women do seem to struggle with this issue a little more. Family issues are still pervasively seen as a female problem, no matter how high up a woman is in the career ladder. So I want you to know that it's not just for our own happiness that we should try to work on the issue of work-life balance. Work-life stress actually leads to very serious health conditions, heart attacks, diabetes, palpitations, and so forth. So it's really not just a luxury to be working on achieving a better balance for ourselves. It's really vital to our well-being and to our overall health. One interesting study I wanted to share is one that I learned from a TEDx talk called Maxed Out, which I highly recommend. The study took place in Sweden, where they had a very generous parental leave policy, including a stipend, not just for women, not just a maternity leave, but for dads as well. However, dads rarely took advantage of this for fear that they would be looked upon as unmanly. And so policymakers in Sweden decided they would do an experiment in 1995 in which they set aside 1 month of parental leave for dads, daddy leave. And the dads were not forced to take the leave, but if they took less than 4 weeks, can you imagine this? 4 weeks off, or took no leave at all, they actually lost their family's subsidies. So can you imagine what happened? Anyone? Yeah. Dads started staying at home with their babies for the first time. And even after they returned to work, there were longer term gains years and years later. The dads, again, years later, took on more responsibilities within the home, like giving baths and clipping toenails, and women returned to work earlier. The employers saw work-life balance, again, is not just a women's issue, but an everyone issue. And in turn, they added more flex time and better solutions. They found that, again, in the long term, this was good for children, good for parents, and even good for the economy years and years later. So experiences of Sweden, Iceland, and other countries also show that the secret to keeping mothers in the workforce lies not in giving them just more time off, but in getting fathers more involved, getting fathers to stay home more instead. And for me, the take home of this study is it's not just up to us as women to try harder in terms of, going further up on the career ladder or doing better or pulling our bootstraps up. We need help with all the parenting responsibilities from fathers, from employers, and other supportive people if we are really able to focus at work and continue at this pace. So even though those are wonderful long-term kind of goals and things that policymakers need to think about, tonight I want to give you 6 simple steps that you can start again starting tomorrow. So number 1, let go of the guilt. Okay. This female client that I spoke to you about, like most working moms, she suffered from tremendous guilt. The guilt that comes from missing out on time with our children. The guilt that comes from not performing our best at work because we have to leave early for the playoff soccer game or a school play. My client felt so guilty about not being available for her children all the time that she really ended up overcompensating in other ways at the expense of herself. For example, instead of, snuggling for a few minutes after story time at night, as part of a bedtime routine, she snuggled with both kids, leaving dad out of this nice ritual, not taking turns. And she would fall asleep in each child's bed and stay asleep in the second child's bed. Obviously, until we really processed this, she was totally unaware of how this was hurting her marriage, her own quality of sleep, and even her children's quality of sleep. It wasn't so healthy for them either. But she just went through these motions every day because she felt so badly that nighttime was the only time she felt she could devote herself to her children since she worked most of the day. So I helped her, and I would like to help you all to let go of the guilt. You can do this first by recognizing when it rears its ugly face, just label it as such, and then put it in its place. Imagine if you were talking with a good friend of yours who was beating herself up for not being available to her children all the time. You'd say, give yourself a break. You are an amazing mom. You're contributing to the world. You're modeling to your daughters good work ethic, contributing to the financial stability of your family. And in addition, you're managing somehow to make most bedtimes, many soccer games, and so forth. Once my client identified her guilt, she made different choices. She snuggled with children before bed. Snuggling is good, but then she worked hard to change the habit they'd gotten into so she could actually have some more unwind time to herself and with her spouse after the children went to sleep. She would make herself a hot tea, watch a half-hour TV program, or sometimes just fall asleep with her husband and feel more connected overall in her marriage. Another piece of, let go of your guilt is you need to be flexible about when family time happens. There are a ton of studies out there on family dinner and the importance of family dinner. Lots of correlational outcomes, less drug abuse, better grades, yada, yada, yada for kids. However, my client, the same woman, felt so defeated because she couldn't make it home in time for dinner every night, let alone cook. I told her it doesn't have to be family dinner. It can be family breakfast. And guess what? It doesn't have to be homemade. Just plan and schedule in that quality time together and don't allow the guilt that it's not homemade or whatnot to get in your way. Step two, connect while away. When you are aware that you're missing an important event in your child's life, try to find a creative way to connect with children during the day. You could have your sitter or the dad take a video of the chorus concert so you can watch it later together that night. Or give her a personal note to read before an important test if she's nervous. For young kids, there's a great book called The Kissing Hand. Have any of you read this? Oh, it's my favorite. Okay. It talks about how the kiss on the palm of a child's hand will stay there forever, no matter if the child washes their hands and so forth. It's a symbolic way of really showing your child you're thinking about them and you're there for them, even though you can't be physically with them at every moment. Ask your sitter again to send pictures of kids to you via text message once a day so you can see what they're doing and feel connected. And later you can ask them about that activity. Another female client told me how powerful it was for her that when her kids came to visit her office one day and see where she worked, they loved that she had a picture of them sitting on the desk and one art project from the littler child that she had made, because again, it showed them that she obviously thought of them throughout her workday. 3, unplug to allow for quality time. Rather than feel guilty about not being able to spend all day with your kids, make the time you have with them count by being truly, truly present. How many of us, if we're really honest with ourselves, know we're not being truly present with our kids when we're checking our phones or our new texts or our new emails? Children really feel the difference too, and they will feel more refueled by our time together when it's really devoted to being present with them. And you moms will feel it too and harbor less guilt later since you will have felt that you were the best mom in those moments. So to this end, set boundaries, times you're offline and unplugged. Step 4, add self-care and get back to the basics. We tend to be caregivers. Women tend to be caregivers, taking care of everyone else around them. Children, partners, friends, aging parents. But in order to do this effectively, we need to take better care of ourselves. This includes exercise, which acts like an antidepressant in the brain, or other things to refuel you. The airplane motto, put on your oxygen mask first, really applies here. The client I spoke to you about in the beginning was able to add exercise 3 times a week to her schedule, as well as a hobby she hadn't allowed herself to do since high school because she was so driven and the hobby didn't really connect directly with her, long-term career goals. You may be wondering, well, how did she do that? There's not enough time in the day. One thing she did was to ask her husband to choose one day a week where he could stay just 1 hour later in the morning until the nanny arrived so that she could work out that morning. And once she started to engage in these activities, she realized they were almost like survival tools for her mental health. She could not go back. You may need to delegate a sitter to do grocery shopping or get groceries delivered so that you can spend that extra hour a week doing something just for you. In terms of getting back to the basics, what I mean by that is remember to do all the things you basically know you should, but don't always do. The things that your own mom or your doctor might tell you. So exercise, again, falls in that arena. Sleep 6 to 9 hours a night. Eat right. Avoid quick fixes like caffeine, nicotine, alcohol. In addition, add a breathing ritual like meditation, yoga, or even just a few deep breaths each morning to start your day or when you feel stressed. I have tape recorded a 60-second relaxation technique for clients so they can almost memorize the script and relax their bodies within 1 minute once they've practiced this enough, but it's a skill. At the end, I'll go over this technique with you, and if you like it, I'm happy to send it to you. Step 5, remind yourself of reasons why you work in the first place, and then surround yourself with others who support your decision to work. Sometimes, like everyone, I'll fantasize about quitting my job, my responsibilities, and staying home. But then I remember the gains for me of being a working mom. When you are at your most stressed, it's important to remember why you work in the first place. Why do you do this? I focus on how I feel I'm really a better mom when I have built-in breaks, rather than being with the kids all day long, 7 days a week. I focus on how I can afford to send my children to camp or maybe the college of their choice one day because of financial contributions. I can also justify buying an expensive accessory guilt-free. I also remind myself I love what I do and that I am modeling for my girls that I do good for others, that I help others and make a difference in helping others with their problems. Once you've sort of reminded yourself why you work in the first place, then surround yourself with supportive others who understand how hard it can be to do what you do and really support your decision rather than judge. This group is a perfect example, and I'm so impressed that all of you recognize the importance of it and are here. Step 6, last. Ask yourself, how can I make my work environment healthier for me? This is a little tricky, I know, and there may be more room for improvement in certain jobs than others, but there may be some room for improvement in terms of your work environment, and while not all jobs are as flexible as others, see what you can do to make your work environment work better for your life. Are your hours flexible as long as you get the work done? Could you work 1 day a week from home? Less travel just when the kids are young? Your needs will change as the family changes and kids get older and so forth. But advocating for what you need and what small changes may help you, it's often worthwhile. Another client of mine who's a lawyer traveled all the time, and she made a tough decision to change to a position with less travel. There may be trade-offs for sure. And again, there's no perfect decision. There's losses at either end, but be open to your changing needs and do what's best for you. So to sum up, here are 6 simple but powerful steps that you can take this week to decrease stress and to help you manage your work-life balance dilemma. I'd like you to pick at least one to implement starting tomorrow. Number 1, let go of the guilt. Number 2, connect while away. Number 3, unplug to allow quality time. Number 4, add self-care and get back to the basics. Number 5, remind yourself why you work in the first place and then surround yourself with supportive others. And number 6, ask yourself, are there ways or how can I make my work environment healthier for me? Now that we've discussed all the things you should do that are overwhelming and may feel impossible, here is the 60-second relaxation exercise I promised. So before we begin, take a deep breath. I can't because I have a cold, but in through your nose and let it fall through your mouth with a sound or a sigh. And then close your eyes. On your next deep inhale, imagine any shade of green, green grass, sea foam, dark green, and breathe it in. And as you exhale, imagine that the green air is chopping away all the tension in your body. Inhale green and exhale. Let it chop away any tension in your neck, shoulders, belly, anywhere. Then take another deep inhale, this time using blue air. And as you exhale, let the blue, just like the ocean, wash away through your body, out through your fingers, and out through your toes. Inhale, breathe in the blue. And exhale, let your blue air wash away all your tension. And inhale this time the color purple, any shade. Just like lavender aromatherapy, let the purple soothe your body with each exhale. Inhale purple and exhale soothe. And then with your own time, your own rhythm, travel through these colors, letting their properties work their magic as you relax. So when you're ready, you can open your eyes again. If you're interested in getting a text message with the 6 simple steps that I laid out for you tonight, so they're saved on your phone as a daily reminder, I want you to take your phones out and you can text the word balance. Tell me when you're ready. It's just one time. You won't get bombarded by these things, I promise. So you're going to text the word balance to the number 68398. So again, text the word balance to 68398 and then just hit send. And hopefully my voice will stay with you tomorrow as you try to implement at least one of these 6 steps. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Coping Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes. And check out our podcast page at copingpartners.com.